Okay, so heading out, just got to do some more rice. Hope everyone had a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year coming up. So over winter I'll be doing quite a few more sort of discussive videos, and heading down to the rice station now I might discuss Akiyas. So I think the next few videos I'll be doing just talking about Akiyas. It's not really what my channel's about, but it is an aspect of Japan that foreigners like, and it's also a big aspect where foreigners go wrong in Japan. So I think I should cover this a little bit more. So for those who haven't seen my how not to buy Akiya videos, I strongly suggest that you have a look at them so you know where I'm coming from and the way I approach things in Japan. But as far as this video goes, I like to talk about who you should bring along with you when you buy an Akiya. So my how not to buy Akiya is in the description. Before going on with the video, if you haven't seen, I strongly suggest you see that and then come back to the video. This will make a lot more sense. So when you do go and do your inspection with an Akiya, you absolutely do not want to bring your friend with you. That's the last person you want to bring. Especially a yes man sort of friend, somebody that's always positive, so to say. They're always going to point out the good things and what a great eye you have for these old houses and things like that. You don't want to bring these people along with you. You want to bring somebody who's going to point out absolutely every reason why you shouldn't buy the house. The owner or the real estate, they're going to compliment you on your taste. They're going to compliment everything about the house. They're not going to point out too many of the negatives for you. So the only person who's going to do this for you is someone who's got a bit of a negative eye, really. They're the only ones going to help you in this situation. So if you want a little bit of an ego boost and things like that when you're buying the most important thing in your life, I think you're not really in the mental space to be buying a house. That's not how you should approach things. You have to approach things rationally. You have to approach things from a distance and try and keep your heart out of it as much as possible. What I see with a lot of failures with foreigners who buy Akiyas and re-abandon them, which is a massive problem in Japan. You don't get to see it on YouTube because foreigners and the Japanese as well, they don't like to post their failures or something that makes them look bad. So even people who have channels, who have bought houses, renovated them and then moved out, they come up with all sorts of excuses why they don't live there, but nothing to do with their original decision at all. Go figure. So people who don't bring a negative Nelly with them are doing themselves a disservice, and they buy the biggest house they can, the oldest house they can, with all the nice old Japanese sort of features, and they even take themselves out of the accountability equation. They said, oh well, I just have to buy it, it's I couldn't help myself. So it's sort of a bit of a coping mechanism for in the future when it all goes pear-shaped. They can sort of say, well, it's not my fault, it's what my heart wanted. So it's sort of setting them up for destruction even before they've started. It's no different than the 18, 19-year-old teenager who barely has an income buying his dream car that everybody knows he can't afford, that everybody knows he won't be able to maintain, everybody knows he won't be able to pay the insurance on, and barely keep up with the payments, barely be able to put petrol in the car. But a young guy will go out and do it, and totally from emotion, buying his dream car, so to speak, something he's been looking at in magazines since he was 8 years old. And foreigners are especially adept at doing this in Japan. They just buy way too much house. They don't have the budget to afford it. They don't have in many cases, they don't even have sort of a long-term pathway to stay in Japan as well. And these sort of things is just a recipe for disaster, really. So when you've got your area all sorted out, you really need to have someone be able to analyse the whole situation for you, someone who's good with money, someone who's good with estimating costs, somebody who has a track record of doing it, not just your friend that you like to drink beer with on the weekend. They're not going to help you at all. And for most people, these are the people that they bring along with them to make probably the biggest life-changing decision that they'll ever make. And they're making it in a foreign country, which is twice as risky. So who you bring along is absolutely crucial. And another thing that seems to happen a lot is this sort of mentality that, oh, well, I'll do it myself. Like it's going to be free to do these sort of maintenance tasks, repairs. Well, you know, oh, well, I don't have the money, but I'll do it myself. Well, if you look at building a house, doing renovations, the labour component is generally only a third. So if you've got no money at all, doing it yourself, you're still going to be 2/3 of the money short. But people seem to think, well, if you do it yourself, it's free, and it's never the case at all. And people generally like to think that their time is free, and time is not free. You're only on this earth for so long, and you don't want to spend years renovating a place do you? Because that's a cost as well. So getting back to who you should bring along, you really need to bring the biggest negative nearly ever. So if you have a look at the way banks operate, much the same way as real estates or somebody selling their car to you, is they sell dreams. They don't sell loans. So if you have a look on any TV commercial, the way they talk about home loans and things like this, they're selling people a dream, and they don't have someone in the bank who actively discourages people from taking out loans. And how many people have been ruined by buying houses they couldn't afford, especially in 2008 and things like this. People buying houses that go down in value as well. Going to see a lot of that soon around the world. So it helps to have someone who's going to give you a counterbalance, that's going to bring you back down to earth, who's going to keep your ego in check, who's going to say things that you're not going to like. So having people around that's a yes man, that's a positive man, that's going to be part of your dreams and all this sort of thing. That's great after you've bought the place. To have these people around, it's great for you. But for the actual purchase, you need someone to rein it in a bit for you, because there are a lot of great properties everywhere in Japan, a lot of great potential DIY projects, but you really have to have your feet on the ground, because I'll just give everyone a challenge. Just have a look at just the channels on YouTube that have been out in the last 5 years. How many on Akiyas and how many have sizzled out? Nobody knows where the channel owner is. They haven't posted for years. There's heaps of them everywhere, and they all start out with the same thing. Clickbaity titles. I bought a house for next to nothing sort of thing, and it's eventuated to nothing. And this is the most common thing in Japan, because Japan is not an easy place to live. It's not an easy place to make a living. There's a lot of pitfalls. Even in buying a house for $1, you've got that expense forever. So you can look at things this way. I bought a house for $1,000, or I've got myself a liability for the rest of my life of $800 a year. They're not going to put that in the clickbait title, are they? They're going to say, I bought a house for $5,000. But the reality is, they bought a liability until they die, because nobody's going to buy it off them. And the chances are, from what I've seen from my observations, looking at many channels, they've really bought in areas that have just absolutely got no future. And I can't see them ever being able to sell it. And this is why you have so many foreigners who buy these places, and they escape out the airport and re-abandon them, and the authorities can never find them again. It's the most common scenario. I've said it over 18 months ago. But still people put out these titles. Still people want to shill this sort of Akiya sort of nonsense. And they don't give people advice. Real advice that's going to help them. And this is what I like to put out. It's not what my channel's about, but I will talk about Akiyas from time to time. Anyway, I've just got to go in the shop for a sec. I'll be back. Okay, heading back in. So another thing you find as well with these sort of, I call them Akiya shills. They don't help people at all. And ones who make really shocking decisions, quite obvious, they start talking about their house in a spiritual manner. So they start talking about, oh, well, I've got a connection with my house and possibly with the previous owner, and they start talking about all this sort of metaphysical nonsense. And it's sort of a coping mechanism, I look at it as. So they can sort of rationalise their decision, their bad decision. So, and if anyone were to say, well, you know, what you did was stupid, they'll just come back and say it's because you're not spiritually connected like I am. So, you know, it's all this sort of ego rubbish. And it's how they set themselves up. You know, if nobody agrees with what they did, and it's quite obvious what they did was stupid, it's because it's your fault, it's not their fault. So these sort of people, they just annoy me no end, and they don't help people at all. And it's sort of all about them. It's not about anybody else. And they will do and say anything to make themselves sort of a professional, sort of like a guru or something like that. It's just absolute garbage. And another thing you'll find too with a lot of sort of these Akiya shills is they're quite happy to give people like 70% of the information. There's a lot of grey area. They don't talk about too much about the finances, and a lot of them do this sort of stuff as a side gig. So putting up clickbait titles just to get a little bit of extra pennies, which is all it is. And they don't care about who it might potentially hurt or anything. As long as they get a few pennies out of it, they don't care. And it absolutely destroys people. And people who follow their advice, they really pay for it in the end. And what's coming up, sort of a bit of a fashion at the moment, is sort of these videos where I bought 20 houses and I bought 100 houses and 200 houses and all this sort of stuff. And it's totally light on information. It's light on data. It's light on absolutely everything. And they seem to be quite proud of themselves. Well, there's nothing to be proud about of buying 100 houses for $1, is it? So, you know, who doesn't have $100? So this sort of thing is going to get people caught up. They're going to go here, they're going to come here, they're going to buy lots of houses for $50, $100, $1,000, and they're going to be stuck with all these liabilities they have to pay every year. And the people who have sort of made this sort of idea of paradise or whatever, they're not going to be found when these people are financially ruined. And this sort of how do you say it, this sort of boom or whatever's happening, it's totally irresponsible, and the smart ones are going to see through it all. But as you see, there's a lot of stupid foreigners around, and they're going to do the same. And they're going to be totally ruined by the whole thing. And in 2, 3, 4 years' time, the people who have sort of put this out, they're not going to apologise to anyone, are they? So anyway, this is just something to think about. It's not all what it seems, and I just wish that a lot of people were a bit more responsible with if they're going to cover Akiyas, that they do it more responsibly. That's my wish. I'm not an Akiya channel. I don't want to be, but I do watch Japanese videos and on YouTube, and this sort of thing really annoys me because I know that just how much damage it's going to do. Because if that's all the information you're fed, that's all the information you've got access to, that's all the information you're going to act on, isn't it? So even if 1% of the people, or 1% of the 1% of the people act on this sort of information, it's going to be absolute financial carnage. So anyway, things to be aware of, and as always, hope you like the video.
Let's go.